r/AskReddit. What is the kindest thing you've done or seen? I'm epileptic. Once, during a school assembly, I had a seizure. It was pretty bad too. When I woke up, the first people I saw were my English teacher, and she was smiling and telling me it would be okay, and my health teacher, who was apparently the first person to run and get me help. I was in a super emotional state after the seizure, and I began to cry and say I'm sorry. I was hushed by my teacher and helped down the bleachers by them. My health teacher, my English teacher, my choir director and the school counselor all stayed by me until I got into the ambulance. My literature teacher also ended up sending me a very nice video of her and all of her family wishing me well. Another seizure I had, I was at a con, standing in line to get David Tennant's autograph. I was so excited that I had a seizure, and after I woke up I was wheeled back behind a curtain that was behind the booth. A moment later, David Tennant's agent came up to me and asked me what color pen I wanted. I was confused, but I said black. After he said that, he explained that David wanted to come back and make sure I was okay, which he did. The first thing he said to me was, "What are you doing falling down on me?" And he walked over and we had a full conversation. He asked my name and autographed the book I had brought for him to. I got a picture, a conversation and an autograph from David Tennant, and this was big. I'm a huge fangirl for him. All he wanted was to make sure I was okay. I was selling my bike when I was a teen for $30. Got a hit and set up a location. Ended up being greeted by two kids on a single bike, one on the pegs, and the kid with the bike bought his friend my bike so they could ride together. I absolutely love doing adopt-a families during Christmas. I don't have kids of my own, but I really put a lot of thought into what to get them. These are low-income families, and I always ask for ones with lots of little kids, so I try to pick things that they can get a lot of use out of. I always get loads of books, especially ones where the parents can interact with the kids. Cookbooks, puzzles, bedtime stories. I go heavy on science books and kids too, especially for girls. Always gotta get a hula hoop, one of those huge life-size dollhouse / castles you can color, and a ton of some sort of age-appropriate building blocks or Legos. I get piles of art stuff and paper, coloring books, painting sets, jewelry kits, all kinds of crafty things. I get them some sort of diary or journal if they're older, someplace secret they can write their thoughts. My most favorite family of them all was single mom who'd just turned 18. Her son was 3, and she'd moved into her very first apartment. She had nothing but 2 bare mattresses on the floor, one for her and one for her son. She was working a job and was trying to save up for things for the house. Her wish list was heartbreaking. She wanted blankets for them both, a pan to cook with, and a Spider-Man toy for her son. That's it. I was single at the time, supporting myself, so I only had a couple hundred to spend. I got her a complete comforter / sheet set, a pillow, and a full set of cooking pans. I found the coolest thing for her son though. It was a fitted sheet that turned your bed into a Spider-Man tent. It was awesome. And then I found a big Spider-Man stuffed toy, like 2 feet tall. I also found this huge book with over 100 full-length bedtime stories. I got the usual boring stuff, clothes for her son and a gift card for a holiday meal. But then I found at Target a clearance TV/DVD combo. It was less than $100. I knew money was tight, so I included a note in her Christmas card that she could rent her son videos from the library for free. I would have given anything to see their faces. I really hope she liked everything. I wish that it made a good Christmas for her and maybe made her first Christmas on her own a little more happy. When my wife gave birth to our firstborn, the woman she had shared a ward with while in the early stages of labor had a stillbirth. After giving birth, rather than spending time bonding with her newborn, my exhausted wife gave me our son and spent 3 hours comforting and consoling this woman. Something about the bond of mother seemed to connect them. The woman and her husband have since become close family friends and had 2 beautiful children after this. They still credit the support we, mostly my wife, gave them in the period of time after the stillbirth, especially in those 3 hours, with helping them get through their grief. The kindest act I've ever seen done by the kindest person I've ever met. I donated stem cells to a stranger. I matched with them almost a year ago, and the procedure was completed in December. It's a very impersonal experience because of the anonymity of it. I didn't know anything about the patient I was donating to, and they knew nothing about me. It wasn't until I received a letter from her, this morning no less, that it really hit me how much of an impact it had on her life. For me it was a cheek swab I did in college 4 years ago, and then a random email saying that I had matched with someone. It was eye-opening to read her letter, because after the pandemic I hadn't really thought about it for a while. Of course, it was a profound experience donating life-saving stem cells to someone, but not knowing where those cells were going after the procedure left me feeling sorta empty. It wasn't until today that I really appreciated it. I broke my foot while bouldering a week into my semester abroad. I had never been out of the country before, so I was absolutely panicking. A total stranger came right over after I fell, recorded important info for the paramedics, and spent the next 10 or so minutes while waiting for the ambulance asking me questions about my studies and my research. I'd mentioned I was a student. He asked such thoughtful questions and was so kind and able to calm me down, even though I was absolutely freaking out. I was a server for a while and my coworker was pretty new. They'd send most staff home because it was late, and, how it always happens, we got super busy. My coworker was struggling and got a terribly rude table. They didn't seem to understand that they weren't the only customers in the restaurant and we were understaffed. They made her cry and have a meltdown. We've all been there, so I took over the table and, after they left, put $15 on the table so she would see she got a tip from the table. I never told her I put money on the table for her, and seeing her confidence grow from that was what I was hoping for. Her response after was something like, "Wow, I must not be as terrible of a server as I thought I was. Maybe I'm getting the hang out it after all." An older gentleman tried to ship an envelope to his grandson from a shipping company I worked at. The way he acted and the things he said threw up too many red flags in my head. So, against company policy, I opened the envelope after he left, and inside of it was 5 figures in cash. I called the cops and told them to get in touch with the man and try to figure out what was going on. As it turns out, someone had called the older man and said his grandson was in the hospital, and if they didn't send the money he would get a surgery that was badly needed. The older man couldn't get in touch with the grandson by phone, so he panicked and sent the money to the address they provided. We were able to stop it from happening and get the money back to him. He said it was basically his life savings. The story kind of got big, and the news ran a story on it, and apparently it's a scam that happens to a lot of old people. We started this kind of club to reach out to nursing homes and try and educate people about it, and a lot of people were not aware of anything like that happening. A lot of good came from me just being nosy. I was talking to some random guy in the bar, and he said he was having surgery the next day and didn't have someone to pick him up after. I ended up driving him there, sitting with him before he went back, calling his parents when he got out, sitting with him in recovery, picking up his post-op meds, driving him home, and making sure he was okay before I left. Never saw him again, and that's okay. I saw a neighbor boy practicing his jump shot into some tree branches in his front yard. I had a portable hoop in the back from when I moved in that was taking up space. So I walked over and offered him the hoop for free. I only lived there for the next year or two, but it was almost non-stop basketball dribble next door after that. I saw him, his sister, parents, aunts, uncles, even a grandparent or two all take a couple shots at the hoop over time. It felt good to know his family got so much use out of it. I was 16, driving over to my girlfriend's house on rainy Saturday afternoon. There was a man biking in front of me, and when he went to get onto the sidewalk, he completely ate shit. I pulled into the closest driveway and saw that his bike was mangled and his arm was bleeding. I threw his bike in my trunk, gave him my old sweatshirt for his bloody arm, and drove him home. When I dropped him off, he gave me his card. Turned out he was a dentist at a local research hospital. Well, fast forward to when I'm 19, and the same man took out my wisdom teeth for free as part of a research experiment. Not sure if there was actually an experiment that they needed wisdom teeth for, but just goes to show that good things happen to good people. You got cloned, bro. This reply got me dead. My dad ran into an old high school friend he hadn't seen in years. He learned that the man had cancer, that he had no family except a son in college in another state, and that he was basically dealing with it all by himself. So my dad started taking him to his appointments and out to lunch. He even organized how to take his crazy number of prescriptions, since it was confusing to figure out when to take them, when they all had different times and requirements. There were about 18 of them, I think he said. Then, when his friend died, my dad helped his son do all of the end-of-life arrangements. My dad is my hero. He is such a giving person and I strive to be like him.